Hi everyone, my name is Abby Gavin. I am a student in educational psychology in the UAM MAT program, and for my second project for this class, I looked a little deeper into Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. So, this is a theory about the different ways that people develop as they age. In essence, it's about the different stages that you go through as you age and all the different things that happen to you emotionally, psychologically, socially as you're going through these different stages. So, just a disclaimer, nothing here is like completely concrete. It's all a theory, and there are different versions that are going to tell you different ages on some of these groups. There are different versions that are going to give you different information, like the textbook that I'm using doesn't mention the virtues that other websites have brought up. So I incorporated those as well just because I thought those were interesting, but again, you're not going to get that everywhere. Some people don't hold with that part of the theory. Okay. So a little bit about personal and social development. From infancy, the brain is constantly growing and changing. As the cognitive abilities of a child increase, they gain a deeper sense of self and a more nuanced understanding of the world around them. In this way, children experience personal and social development. Erik Erikson, a German psychologist, developed a theory to explain the various developmental stages that human beings experience as they age. These stages are adapted from the work of famous psychiatrist Sigmund Freud and range from birth to late adulthood. There are a lot more stages that focus on younger children, and as you age, there are fewer stages. In each developmental stage, Erikson identifies a psychosocial crisis that defines a personality at a certain age. Successful resolution of the crisis results in the attainment of a basic virtue. So here we have a chart that just kind of summarizes everything up. It has the different stages, the different crises, the basic virtues, and the rough age. Again, ages are not exact. Some people develop a little slower, a little faster. So the first stage that we have is trust versus mistrust. This one's going to take place from birth to 18 months of age. At this stage of life, infants are almost entirely helpless and reliant on those around them for sustenance, comfort, and protection. As such, they must be capable of trusting their caregivers, in particular the mother. The caregiver's failure to consistently provide care and affection to the infant can create trust issues in the child that could impact their entire lives. The virtue obtained during this stage is hope, which is fostered by the infant's knowledge that they can rely on those around them. Stage 2, autonomy versus doubt. This one takes place from 18 months to 3 years of age, so the toddler era. No longer entirely dependent on their caregivers, children in stage 2 have gained mobility and communication skills. Toddlers are eager to do things for themselves and to push their own limits, which can be worrying for their parents. This is going to be the stage that we call the terrible twos. It's whenever the children are always pushing the buttons. At this age, children need to be allowed to explore their own abilities with parental guidance. Parents who are too overbearing at this stage can damage their child's ability to make their own decisions. But parental guidance is important because otherwise they can get themselves into lots of trouble and danger, and we don't want that either. Here, children gain the virtue of will. So that would be the desire and ability to initiate action. At this point, they become very stubborn. They want what they want. If you just always refuse to give them what they want or even let them try to get it themselves, as they grow older, they'll have trouble wanting things and desiring to get them. Stage 3, initiative versus guilt. So this one's going to take place at 3 to 6 years of age. Some of the different charts I found on the internet said 3 to 5 years of age. As preschoolers, children become even more active and aggressive. They particularly need to explore their physical and social environments. Play is important at this stage because it shows the child's identification with his or her social role. Naturally, the need for play can create chaos and disorder within the family environment, but parents should be careful not to respond too harshly, as this can influence the child's future attitude towards following their own desires. Purpose is the virtue gained in this stage, as children come to understand why people do the things they do. At this point, children are starting to realize that there are reasons why we do things. Stage 4. Industry versus inferiority. This is going to take place around ages 6 to 12. As children enter their school years, the influence of their family members is somewhat lessened by the entrance of teachers and peers. Parents are no longer the ultimate authority who are always right or always wrong. There are more people besides that. Education and creation are key processes in this stage. A failure to be industrious, to work hard, produce a product, and have that product properly acknowledged, can lead to feelings of inferiority in the child when compared to his or her peers. They're very sensitive at this age and very competitive. They want to know that they're just as good as the next person. The virtue acquired in this stage is competency, and students are expected to produce something valid. At this point, students are learning that there are good outcomes and there are bad outcomes. That you're aiming for the good ones. Stage 5. Identity versus role confusion. This is going to be in your adolescence, so 12 to 18 years of age. During the adolescence, young people become increasingly concerned about their own identity and position in the world. They become focused on fitting in with certain groups and often turn from their parents in pursuit of this. During this time, the child's life changes rapidly. Puberty brings changes to their anatomy, while approaching adulthood necessitates that they plan for the future. They need to be allowed to experiment with different occupational, sexual, and educational roles. At this point, they're really worried about who am I going to be and what am I going to do in the future. Fidelity comes in as adolescents become attached to their chosen groups and ideals. Stage 6. Intimacy versus isolation. This is young adulthood, so around age 18 to 35. As people settle into their identities, the next developmental stage is finding other people to share their lives with. In this stage, they are interested in finding romantic partners and expanding their social circles. Failure to do so often leads to feelings of isolation and loneliness. This leads to the virtue of love, as people learn to treat their friends and partners with respect and affection. Stage 7, generativity versus self-absorption. That one's cut off a little bit by the camera, sorry about that. Middle adulthood to age 35 to 65. Some other sources have 35 to 55, but again, these ages are not definite. During this age, it becomes increasingly important for people to find meaning in their lives, and as many people of this age have children or grandchildren of their own, they often turn their focus to guiding the next generation. However, there are other ways to find meaning in life. Some people take up new hobbies, or they become more active in social groups or religious circles. Without finding some type of greater meaning in their lives, people may become self-absorbed and self-indulgent or become otherwise stagnant in their lives. Some other sources that I found for stage 7 called it generativity versus stagnation rather than generativity versus self-absorption. The virtue obtained during this stage of life is the virtue of care. So at this point, people are becoming a little bit more involved in what is going on around them. They're winding down in their careers and their families, and they're looking for other things to care about. Stage 8 is integrity versus despair. This is going to be in your late adulthood, so age 55, 65, and up. In the final stage of development, people enter the decline of life and look back over their experiences. In some, this leads to feelings of contentment as they think over their accomplishments. When people do not feel accomplished or in their lives without a certain amount of independence, they can fall into despair. During this part of life, people acquire the virtue of wisdom as they gain the element of introspection that they may not have previously had. Classroom applications. Students would typically begin preschool during the third stage, which is focused on a lot of play. Ideally, preschool teachers should incorporate a lot of unstructured and imaginative play into their day so that students have the opportunity to explore those different elements of life. In the fourth stage, which would be elementary and middle school, teachers need to work to establish good ethics in their students. Students should be allowed a lot of hands-on activities during this phase, the success of which they can easily assess. At this point, remember, the students are very competitive and very worried that they're not stacking up to other people, so they need to have a goal that they themselves can measure. Teachers also should be sure to give lots of positive feedback during this time. During adolescence, in stage 5, it's important that students are allowed to make their own choices and find their slot on the social ladder. This is where I teach, and I notice that my kids are a lot happier whenever they're allowed more variety, when they can work with people of their choosing, whenever we can discuss different aspects of their lives. Group work is especially important at this point, as are extracurricular activities and elective classes. Students need to be exposed to several different possibilities during this age. And those are some of the ideas I came up for classroom applications. They're pretty broad. I think that you can find a lot of ways to work this theory into your classroom depending on what age you have. Thank you very much. I'm all done.